are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone. This is Barb Bruno. I want to welcome everybody from the New Jersey Staffing Alliance to our call today. This is a free training call that we're doing on behalf of your association, and today's topic is 7 hiring tips for your office. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the lines for questions after I'm done with the program. So, and we are going to record this program, and so if you'd like somebody else to listen to this or you'd like to go back and listen to this, we will be sending you an email, with a copy of this program after the presentation. So let's get into today's program, the hiring tips for your office. You are in business as an owner to make a profit, not provide jobs for the people who work for you. And the most important decision you make as an owner is who you hire. In fact, I just returned from the TSA conference in Las Vegas late last night, and it was interesting because at the conference they kept referring to people as the secret sauce, that nothing works without the secret sauce, and the secret sauce is having the right people in the right jobs that work for you. See, I believe that people are not your greatest assets. I always hear that. People are your greatest assets. Well, they're really not your greatest assets unless they're the right people and you've got them doing the right job that, totally uses their talents. You never want to fill a desk. I always talk to owners, I've got 2 empty desks, I've got 3 empty desks, I've got to fill my desk. That's the worst thing you could possibly do is fill a desk. What you want to do is you want to identify the best person for your business and for your team. Today I'm going to discuss a couple things, and I believe as an owner you should always be interviewing. Whether you have an opening or not, you should always be interviewing because especially when you're hiring somebody that's going to impact your bottom line, the right hire should more than pay for themselves versus being an expense. Today I'm going to address 3 areas. Number 1, who do you hire? Who is it that is very successful in our profession? Is it time for you to hire or upgrade in your organization? You may think I'm not really in the process of hiring right now, but are there people working for you who should not be there? As an owner, if you've ever thought about, should I keep this person, should I not keep this person, it's not a matter of if you're going to eventually fire them, it's when are you going to do it. And then we're going to talk about expectations and minimum standards that should be in place. So let's start off with how do you determine who to hire? Tip number 1 is you don't make somebody a top producer, you hire them. I can tell you that I've had, I think, 9 conferences in the last 6 weeks, and it's interesting because every single conference I'm at, I have owners come up to me and say, we don't know what to do, Barb. These people just don't seem to want to work. They're at a certain level. I know they're capable of so much more. Obviously, could your people produce more? The answer is yes. Of course they could produce more. The more important question is, will they? And if somebody has never made a lot of money and you're telling them they can make 6 figures, they probably can't even relate to that. And so the trick to it is that you've got to hire individuals who have sales experience and they have a track record of peak performance. Consider hiring individuals with the following experience. And by the way, when I'm out there speaking and I'm talking to individuals at conferences, these are the backgrounds I see all the time. And when you go to some of these conferences, they can cost a lot of money to attend these national events, and they're not going to send people that are not superstars. And this is the experience I see all the time in the top producers that attend. Number 1, many of them come out of hotel and catering sales. And I can tell you in my own organization, over 50% of my sales team and my recruiting team have always come out of hotels. Second is retail multi-unit managers, like the district manager of a Gap or an Express, or these people got to be a district manager for several reasons. Number 1, they were a superstar salesperson, so they got promoted into management, and then they really knew how to cut a profit at their store, and they end up supervising multi-units. The problem is when you think about retail and hotel. The biggest thing I keep hearing from owners is these people are clock watchers. At 5 o'clock, they run out the door. When you hire somebody out of retail, you hire somebody out of a hotel, they're used to working very long hours, and they're also used to working 7 days a week. And they're used to working holidays and weekends and evenings because they sell the events and they work them in a hotel. And in retail, the hours in retail. And so that's why those 2 people do very well in our profession. And I guess one thing I want to say to you is if you're looking to hire somebody for your sales team, go on and recruit them. You're a recruiter. Go out into these organizations and recruit somebody. If you've got any outside sales reps that are tired of selling outside, They could be an outside rep, but they're just tired of it, especially if you live in a geographic area where there's 4 seasons. In New Jersey, obviously you have winter, just like we do in Chicago. And outside sales reps often love their job in the summer, but they don't like it much in the winter. We're coming into that season now, and just, let it be known out there that you're looking for a copier and you're looking for equipment and furniture, and let all these outside reps call on you and then ask them how they like being an outside sales rep. Most of them don't like it. It's all they know, though. And if you've got a temp firm and you're looking for an outside salesperson, obviously someone with that outside sales experience, even though it's not from our profession, they know what it takes to knock on doors. Rental car salespeople, I ran into a tremendous amount of recruiters. They came out of Enterprise Rental Car. They have a phenomenal training program. And again, these individuals work a ton of hours. You want to find people, our job is not an 8-to-5 job. Recruiting is time intensive. And so if you hire people that are used to working odd hours, used to working long hours, they don't resent the type of hours that we work. Former actors and actresses, and I know you're not that far from New York City. I'm sure you have a good theater community. And it's interesting because people that are actors or actresses, they've worked as waitresses, as bartenders, they've sold, they've done all kinds of things, and they're great at improv. And that's why they make such good recruiters if they've given up the dream of making it big, of starring on Broadway or, going out to Hollywood and making it big. They make great recruiters. Tip number 2 is determine who will complement your current team. You've got to look at your current team and decide who you need. Determine, do you need a pace setter? Do you need somebody with real high energy level? Do you need someone that is process oriented? And I have to tell you, you have to have systems in place. I hear that no matter where I go, and when I'm not the total speaker of a conference, I attend sessions all the time. And if I've learned anything, through my own experience as well as listening to other experts in the field, what you need are systems, and you need processes, and you need to hire the right people, and then you have to make sure that they follow your processes, whether they're your big biller or your newest rookie. Or do you just need a leader? Do you need someone who's going to really have, much higher, credentials and higher goals in that than your current people do? You've got to also consider your company culture and core values to identify qualities needed in your potential hire. And sometimes I don't think that we think about this when we're hiring. We're thinking about, okay, do they have a track record of success? But if you're a really honest person, and that's who you are, you're kind of a black and white person. You don't work well in grays. And you hire somebody who's always bending the truth, always taking it to an extreme. They're not going to work out long term with you. They're going to ruin your company culture because they don't reflect who you are as the owner. Tip number 3, and I mentioned this earlier, is you have to always be interviewing. When you look at time to hire or upgrade, I think that, is there a perfect time? I think you always have to be interviewing. When you evaluate your current team, you've got to ask yourself the following questions. Are the goals consistently attained or surpassed? Is everybody generating a profit for you? How would you rate the attitudes of the people that work for you? And, most importantly, if you've got a tenured staff, has anybody quit and stayed? Because if you had someone who used to be good for you and now they're just not producing, and if anything, they become negative, that person can ruin the morale of your office. And the reason they're staying is because you're still paying them. And you can't look at what somebody did, 7 years ago and say, well, they were once a top producer for me. If they're not succeeding and they're not producing, they're not happy either. One person can't make you, but one negative person can break you. And even if this is a very experienced person that's been with you a long time, you cannot afford to have a negative person on your team. Tip number 4, if you can't cover your orders or assignments, you have to hire. A new hire should be an asset versus added overhead in a relatively short period of time. Consider having your new hire only work on the recruiting side of the sale. If you want to get a new hire up and productive fast, what you do is you put them only on the recruiting side of the sale, and you show them what assignments or what job orders to work. And the nice part about this is they're going to be working with your experienced team. And when they're doing nothing but just generating talent, number one, it gets them profitable quickly for you. Your experienced team members will help them close deals. And it also helps integrate senior and junior recruiters. If you hire a new person and they're writing their own orders and the orders aren't even good, they're going to work them because they wrote them. If you put them on the hottest orders in-house where you know you've got a history of success, you've got one of your current successful people working the orders, number one, your senior team sees the value of these people coming in as a recruiting specialist because they're covering more of their orders. You know, at every conference I address, I always ask what percentage orders, of the orders being written are being covered. And right now, from what I can tell, it's roughly 20% of the orders that you're writing you're covering. So just think about that for a minute. You write 10 orders and cover 2. You may need to hire somebody that just recruits on those orders because they can help you be more successful. And it really is. If you've got more business than you know what to do with, it's very important that you hire and that you basically, set these people up to succeed. And the quickest way to get a new hire making you money is to only have them do the recruiting side of the business. Now let's talk about expectations and minimum standards, because what you don't measure doesn't count. And you've got to have, be very specific in what you look for as an owner or manager. So my tip 5 is you've got to create job descriptions. And the information should include the following. You've got to put the responsibilities of the job down, and then the circumstances in your office that this person must tolerate. I always refer to this as kind of the good, bad, and the ugly. Every one of us has things going on in our office that a new person is going to experience. And this could be that you've got some senior people that are a little bit difficult. It could be that you've got a very tenured staff that doesn't exactly have a warm and fuzzy welcome for a new person. What is it that is going on in your office that they have to tolerate that is not going to change? It's part of your office. It's part of your team. You've got to be upfront with these things because they're going to find out once they work for you for a few days. Also, the necessity to enjoy a sales profession. If they say, how long do I have to do this before I don't have to do this? When you let them observe recruiting calls, you realize they don't want to sell. They don't want to prospect. A lot of people view our job as human resources consulting, all kinds of different titles, but basically everybody in our organization is a salesperson, from the receptionist on up through you. Everybody is involved in sales. And then you've got to give them the factors needed to succeed at this career. They've got to realize they're going to prep and debrief people at night. They've got to realize that there's always going to be prospecting involved. They've always got to be out there looking for better talent and better clients. Again, I think that, and look at your job description. If you do have a job description, should your job description also include your minimum standards? The answer is yes. What about what they can expect from you and what you expect from them? I mean, it's important that you're very clear. You don't want them to be surprised. And I have to tell you something. It's interesting because when we tell people about the job and we give them a job description, that's one thing. But when we bring them in and let them observe the job being done and they actually see it and hear it, they have a much different feeling about it. And if that's not part of your interviewing process, I would strongly suggest that become part of your interviewing process. Basically bring them in your office and let them observe for a few hours. And what we do is we bring them in for 3 hours and we say, do you think you can do that? Yes, I do. Great. And we role play with them. We give them an email address and we tell them, if you surface anybody, if anybody sends us a resume that we place, you would get $500 whether we hire you or not. Because I want to show you what's in it for you if you're going to make these calls. You learn so much when you put somebody on a phone with a script. You'll see phone fear. You'll see people that are too social. If this isn't part of your hiring process, really add it today because it'll make all the difference in the world. As a matter of fact, 1 out of 3 people that we get to this step in our process will come in even before the 30 minutes. We let them observe for 30 minutes and we pull them in. We'll have 1 out of 3 come in before the 30 minutes is over and go, how long do I have to do that before I don't have to do that? And I'm telling you, at every single conference, I have recruiters come up to me and say, I can't believe how much I'm expected to be on the phone. Why didn't they know that? Your hiring process is extremely revealing for both you as well as your prospective new hire and is going to reveal red flags like phone fear, too talkative, negative, too social. I just believe that it's really important that you observe people. Step number 6 is you want to create an interviewing process. Never shortchange your interviewing process. Develop standardized questions for each potential hire. And when I'm saying standardized conference, we have a 20 question, basically a process of 20 questions that we ask anybody we're considering hiring. And the reason we ask them all the same 20 questions, if you're hiring from your own office and you ask, one person a series of questions, you ask another person a total different series of questions, you're not going to know who to hire because you're not asking the same consistent questions. And again, have them observe. you've got to give them an opportunity to get on that phone, because hearing about it is much different than seeing people do it. And seeing somebody do it is much different than picking up the phone. And how many times have you hired somebody, they sounded great in the process, they had the background you look for, and you hire them and all of a sudden they're sitting there staring at their phone because they can't pick it up. Or they're negative, or every time they do something they share with everybody in the office. You know what's really funny is they're going to do that from the get-go. If you observe them for 30 minutes to an hour making calls, their natural personality comes out. And that's why, it's not enough just to have a job description. You have to have a process. I feel it should be very difficult for people to get into your company, but it should be easy for them to get out. If they don't hit minimum standards, they no longer work with you. It was interesting. I've been at 3 conferences in the last week. I had back-to-back conferences, and in every instance, everybody is talking about the most important thing you're all doing right now is deciding who's going to be on your team next year, who's going to help you succeed. Tip number 7 is you've got to provide expectations and standards in writing. Provide written expectations and minimum standards. Take time to write these things out. Let them know what they can expect from you and what you expect from them. They cannot be asking you questions 24/7. Who takes most of your time? It's your lowest producer. Every time somebody asks you a question, your response has to be, what is your solution? You got to teach them to think for themselves. They've got to know up front before you extend an offer to them what they can expect from you and what you expect from them. And of course, that absolutely includes minimum standards of performance. And what this allows you to do is manage by numbers versus emotion. It also reveals where you need to mentor and coach. When you hire somebody, either you or somebody in your organization has to be mentoring and coaching them daily. You don't want to wait 30, 45 days later and say, wow, they're not working out. Well, maybe they didn't have proper training. Maybe you didn't mentor them. Maybe they didn't know what was expected because you didn't give them anything in writing. You've got to have daily results standards that they understand they have to have. If you hire somebody on the recruiting side of the sale only, by their second week there, they're told that they have to interview 3 people a day. By the following week, 4 people a day, because somebody's going to no-show that they booked. And you want them to get very used to focusing on send-out numbers. When we have people hired, we want them booking send-outs in their first month of employment here, because that's the most important number we monitor, and we want them to understand that's their job. I want to give you a couple bonus tips, too, this morning. Your next hire should actually be a referral from your current sales staff. If you've created a productive environment where people can flourish, you will never have to recruit future employees. And think about this. If you develop some type of paid referral program with the largest portion of the bonus being paid after 6 months and then after 1 year, this provides you with an unofficial mentor for your new hire because they've got a vested interest. I just left 2 very large. One was a IT contract and IT engineering conference, and another one was just a general, staffing conference. And what many of the owners are doing is they're paying 1% of the gross margin of profit to the person who referred it on all the production of the new hire. So think about that. If I bring somebody in and you pay me a referral bonus up front, kind of my job is over, and I'm not judged if the person stays or not. Sorry about that siren. I'm right by a hospital. But if you pay them a little bit up front and pay them some in 6 months and something after a year, or if you have a contractor staffing firm and you pay them a percentage of the profits that person generates for 1 year, what you've done is you've absolutely guaranteed that this person is going to be mentored by the person who referred them because they want the money. And again, if you've created a great environment, and it's interesting because I always try to talk to the top producers. I always try to talk to the most successful owners and find out what is it, what makes their team click, what makes the dream team. And I can tell you, as simple as this may sound, people laugh. They laugh. They're having fun. They can be themselves. They're not uptight. It's not, it's not a stifling environment. It's not a negative environment. If people make mistakes, it's not fatal. They learn by them. That's the type of environment you have to create if you want your employees to draw people to you. And if you've never received a referral from any of your employees, what does that tell you as the owner or manager? Is your environment not one that they're enjoying? I guarantee you, if you follow these 7 steps for your office to hire, you will hire the best person versus filling a desk. And again, filling a desk is the absolute last thing you want to do. And think about the goals you're setting for next year. For all intents and purposes, you're in 2014 right now. Everything being done right now is setting up your team and your office for 2014. So what are you setting up? And look at the goals you have. Do you have the team in place that can help you attain your goals? If the answer is no, then you got to do something about it. And there's no better time now than to bring somebody on, before the end of the year. People always say, I'm going to wait till after the first of the year. Well, then that person's not going to be productive until the middle of the first quarter. And by the way, from all indications that I'm hearing, the first 2 quarters of this coming year are going to be much stronger than the last 2 quarters. Economists are starting to say there's going to be a little bit of a dip in the third and fourth quarter of this year that wasn't even anticipated as early as a quarter ago. So you've really got to beef up and really make your money and really get out there in the first and second quarter, and then in the third and fourth quarter, watch the numbers. You'll still make money. It's not going to be a recession, just a little dip, but your people are going to have to increase the numbers of calls they make to get the same results they're getting with a lot less calls right now. So it's more important than ever for you to really know the numbers and ratios so you know how to guide your team when there is a little bit of a blip in Q3 and 4 of next year. All right, I'm going to open the lines for questions. We've got quite a few of you on the line. You can ask me questions one of 2 ways. You can go to your name, click on the attendee list and find your name. And when you find your name, all you have to do is you see that little yellow hand that looks like a hand being raised. If you click on that, you and I can talk. Or you can type in a question down below where you see the word question. Look at the control panel to the bottom right of your screen. And if you click on the word questions, then I can open the lines and basically answer any questions you have. So let me give you a moment to answer any questions. And while I'm waiting for you to type in questions, what you see on your screen now, if you enjoyed my training when I was in New Jersey, and we got many testimonials from you, I have a web-based training program called the Top Producer Tutor. If you've never seen it, you owe it to yourself to call and ask for a demo, because you basically, need to see this. Because if you basically see it, we can also give you access into it. You can click around for an hour and see it. It literally takes training off your desk and gives you a comprehensive training program overnight. If you don't want to train because you don't want to hire, you can put a new hire on the tutor and it trains them for you. Or if you think your team can produce more, we basically have increased sales for 100% of our clients. So if you're at all interested in a training program for your company, please call and we'll give you a free demo. Also, we have that career portal. Prices are going up at the end of the year for our career portal. And since you were at the New Jersey conference, we will still give you a discount on the career portal. And this is something that looks like you developed it for all the people you don't place. We place less than 5% of the people that come to us. And on social media, we're being blasted by the other 95%. So if any of you want to put 90 minutes back in the day of your sales team, and trust me, that's the number. We're putting 90 days back. And it looks like you created this. Your name is on it. Our name is not. So this is something you can offer everybody you don't place so your recruiters quit being social workers and quit giving free advice. They can just refer them to this career portal. And by the way, it generates passive income for you. So let's see here. Okay, I see one question. Okay. Wait, it's not coming through. Hold on. Oh, what is an average compensation program? It would be very hard for me to answer that not knowing what kind of business you have, if you're doing staffing or direct, and how you're paying commissions and bonuses and incentives. What I've always believed in is there should be a percentage of your overall profits that basically represent what are you willing to pay on salaries. And in your salary, you've got to obviously includes benefits and, incentives, bonuses, and all of that. What percentage are you willing to pay out in compensation? What percentage of your, of your budget? And you can't go over that. I see people all the time trying to go out and hire somebody that is very experienced and has a book of business. The problem is if they bring somebody else's candidates and clients with them, you basically hired a thief and they're going to do the same thing to you someday. So I would say it's more about, and depending on where you are geographically, what niche you're in, obviously people that are in IT are paying their people higher than people that are doing office support. So it just depends on the niche, the margins, and what you can afford as an owner. Let's see. Okay, Barb, own your career portal, get a check every month, tell the group. Yes, it does generate passive income. The nice thing about Happy Candidates is it gets rid of your greatest time waster. It makes you look great. Referrals dramatically increase because you help 100% of the people that come to you, and it generates passive income if, in fact, you're putting candidates in there on a consistent basis. If you don't use it, it doesn't. So I want to put kind of that out there. But thank you for your testimonial. I appreciate that. Let's see. I see no more questions. Now, we've recorded this call, and what I do plan to do is we're going to send a link out to all of you. I'm going to try to get, if I don't have, I know we've got your name because you applied, you basically signed up for this webinar. And so what I'm going to do is get the recording of this off to each of you, because I noticed a few of you came on very late, and you might have missed a good portion of this training. And so I want to make sure that we get the recording portion of this, out to you. It'll probably be the beginning of next week. We're heading into a weekend, and our tech team has to save it and get it out to you and everything. So it'll be early next week by the time we get this out. I do want to, offer any questions again. We've got about, 25 more minutes here if anybody else has any questions. Let's see here. I see no questions on top. Let me go down below. I see no questions below. Okay, here's a question from Jackie. Top qualities you look for in sales executives. They have to want to sell, Jackie. I mean, the top qualities are a track record of success. The biggest thing I look for is that they've got a track record where they've sold for somebody else and they've been a peak performer. Again, it has to be somebody who's self-motivated. I also look for somebody who wants a lot. Like when I say, where do you want to be in 3 to 5 years? If they're very happy where they are and they don't want bigger and better, I'm not going to hire them because they're not going to achieve more because their financial thermostat is set very low. I also look for people that are very positive, that have a very positive attitude, and that realize that we've got people on both sides. The biggest thing is in our sales, jobs. We've got people on both sides of the sale, and even if they've sold something before, if they've sold a tangible, they have a little harder time than if they're selling an intangible, when they're just selling a service. But with us, we've got people that talk back on both sides, and I'm going to throw some objections out to them and see if they naturally overcome them. I also look for very good communication skills, and I want someone who's pretty tenacious. And we put them through a pretty rigorous interviewing process, and I want to make sure that they're doing what we've asked them to do. So great listener, not just a good talker, but those are some of the skill sets. And again, the biggest thing, Jackie, is a track record of success. They've got to have a track record of success, because if they didn't succeed for somebody else, they're not going to succeed for you. If they've never sold but tell you they want to sell, they would like to sell, let somebody else train them on their first sales job. Get somebody that's at least sold 6 months to a year, because it takes a very, very different person, to be able to sell, and especially with people on both sides of our sale. So I want sales experience. Let's see here. Okay, I see no additional questions. All right, well, I thank you for joining me. We will get this recording out to all of you. And again, I would strongly encourage every one of you, if you don't have a comprehensive training program, the difference between the firms that are flourishing and the firms that are not, there's a couple things. Number one, the firms that flourish, they have definite systems in place. They have processes and procedures and systems and a great training program. The firms that do not succeed do not have that. And so if you're at all interested in a free demo, we'd love to show this to you. I hope you've got some tips from today's program that will help you when you do hire your next rock star for your office. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.